With Lululemon, the real gift happens when they're living in it. When you give them the softest loungewear set, the real gift is this. And this. And this. This holiday, Lululemon makes it easy to give a gift that goes beyond. Open the moment. Shop now at Lululemon.com.
A common sense recap of the day's biggest stories. It's John Catsimatidis and Rita Cosby. Katz and Cosby on 77 WABC.
Let's bring in Professor Alan Dershowitz, who joins us here live on Katz and Cosby. Professor Dershowitz, big news on the Judge Merchan case in New York. They came down, he's punting right on the sentence. He's basically delaying it. Explain why this is sort of keeping things in limbo.
Yeah, well, first I want to congratulate my friend Pam Bondi. She's going to be an absolutely first-rate Attorney General of the United States. And my other friend and former student, Jesse Tisch, who just got named the police commissioner. So I feel a lot safer with Jesse and Pam in charge. So I just wanted to...
The women are taking over, Alan.
Good. They're tough women. They're great women.
I like tough women.
Compared to
Thank
Judge
you, John.
Merchan,
Thank you.
I don't know what the heck Judge Merchan's thinking. I think he thinks that by putting off the sentencing, it puts off the appeal. But if he gives, and I think he did, give the defendant the right to seek to dismiss, and let's assume he doesn't dismiss, at that point, the question is, do they have a right to appeal that even before the sentencing? I have to tell you, if they try to stop Trump from appealing his conviction for 4 years, then he'll bring what's called a writ of mandamus, and there will be a determination as to whether or not the conviction is valid. It is not valid for two reasons. Number one, there's no crime. That's the most important reason. Number two, the Supreme Court's immunity decision requires at the very least a new trial without admitting any testimony of people, what was said during his presidency. Now, of course, he can't be tried while he's president. So, I don't know whether Merchan just wants to keep this hanging over his head like a sword of Damocles so that every nation in the world can say, oh, he's the president, but he's been convicted. No, I want them to be able to say he's the president and his conviction was reversed on appeal. That's the way it should be. And I'm hoping that the appellate courts in New York will say not only is this case being dismissed, it never should have been brought in the first place because there is no crime. I would be disappointed if they just threw it out on the immunity. I want them to throw it out on the ground that Bragg made a fundamental miscarriage of justice by even bringing this case. By the way, the same thing is true of the Petty case. Now, he should never have brought the Penny case, but that at least has a basis. But the Trump case has no basis whatsoever.
Yeah, and it's amazing if you look at the fate of the other ones. So what is this? Because Bragg sounds like he's going to continue it. He has this chance to do the counterfiling, and it sounds like Bragg wants to continue it until the president gets out of the White House, maybe.
Well, that's
Alan,
not gonna happen. Yeah.
Bragg's strategy is to keep the sentence over his head for the 4 years. That's the strategy.
That's unconstitutional. First
I agree.
Of all, when the Constitution talks about a speedy trial, it means a whole trial, and trials at common law included every remedy, including an appeal. So he's entitled under the Constitution to a speedy appeal as well, and 4 years is the opposite of a speedy appeal. So I guarantee with 100% certainty, I make a lot of predictions, almost all of them come true, but I never say with 100% certainty. This one I say with 100% certainty. If the courts say that he has no right to appeal because the sentence has been delayed for 4 years, that will be reversed. No court will ultimately accept, not the Supreme Court, not the New York Court of Appeals, a ruling which holds a sentence over somebody's head for 4 years while he's president. Unthinkable.
Alan, I want to raise the arrest warrants that came out of the International Criminal Court against the former defense minister in Israel as well as the prime minister. I mean, What is that about? First of all, Israel is not even a member of the International Criminal Court. There's no jurisdiction here. The whole thing was set up by Iran using South Africa. This is one of the most awful miscarriages I've ever heard of.
Well, you're right. And South Africa today has become one of the worst countries in the world. You know, I worked with South Africa. I worked with Nelson Mandela. I spoke in South Africa. I was banned in South Africa trying to speak at Wits University at the graduation because I wouldn't submit my speech, which was against apartheid. So I had very good connections with Mandela, South Africa. Now it's become a horrible, horrible country. And for them to bring charges of genocide, there's so much genocide going on in so many parts of the world, to accuse Israel, which has had a much better concern for civilian casualties than any other country of genocide, is outrageous. And I think ultimately it will be thrown out. But, you know, this is a court that's not known for its objectivity. It's the same thing with the International Court of Justice, the same thing with the United Nations. International groups today have become the enemies of human rights. That's true of the all these Soros-sponsored organizations like Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch, and all of those things have become instruments of the left against the United States, against Israel, and against any countries that aren't woke, politically correct, and progressive.
And you know what's amazing? You know, as we're talking, Professor Dershowitz,
yeah.
What's incredible to me is you've got Justin Trudeau and these other countries saying
they're going to honor. They're going to honor it and enforce it.
I mean, what is that? And UK is one of them. There's a whole bunch. He can't travel to Europe. He can't go to Canada.
What's the remedy then for the two officials that had the warrants against them?
Well, you know, when the previous head of the Israeli Air Force, Yadlin, had warrants issued against him and he was going to England, he retained me, obviously free of charge. I did it. And I said, if he gets arrested, we're going to assemble, I'll defend him. And, Bibi's not going to travel to any of these countries. Can you imagine what the image would look like if the German police arrested the prime minister of Israel? It's outrageous. But Europe is falling into this trap. The only country in Europe that's invited him to come is Hungary, and the United States, of course. But the idea that Canada, I mean, I worked with Pierre Trudeau, his father. I worked with him on human rights when Pierre Trudeau suspended human rights in Canada after the FLQ killings back in the 1970s. I worked with his father, who was a great man. He was a law professor. We had a lot in common. His son has become, a left-wing thug. He could be on the five. He all he does is follow the hard left, and hopefully he'll be defeated because the head of the Conservative Party in Canada has been very supportive of Israel. Would never dream of arresting Netanyahu. Of course, Netanyahu has gone to Canada many times to speak to Jewish organizations, and these arrest warrants also deny the First Amendment rights of people all over the world who want to hear from these two. And there's no basis for the arrest warrants at all. And I would hope that wiser heads would prevail. But, it's all up to Chuck Schumer. Chuck Schumer has been the one who stopped the Senate from passing a statute that the House has passed, which would impose sanctions on the International Criminal Court if they issue arrest warrants. It's Chuck Schumer, Shomer Yisrael, the man who's supposed to be the guardian of Israel. He is single-handedly preventing this statute from being enacted by the Senate and becoming the law of the land.
Maybe Senator Thune has already said that if Schumer won't get the bill passed by the end of this year, it's the first thing he's going to do when the Republicans control the Senate.
Yeah, and of course, if Schumer did get it passed, Biden might veto it because the rumor is that Biden told Schumer not to allow it to get out of the Senate. So, people ask me all the time, how have I stopped being a Democrat? Duh. Read the newspapers. Read that 19 U.S. senators have tried to disarm Israel, and that J Street, this anti-Israel organization that pretends to be a pro-organization, put the senators up to it and encouraged them and paid them and gave them campaign contributions in order to turn against Israel. So, no, I'm not a Democrat anymore. I can't be part of a party that wants to destroy the nation state of the Jewish people.
All right. Well, Professor Dershowitz, thank you. We love having you here on the show. Thank you very, very much.
Good. Everybody have a good weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you,
absolutely.
Professor.